Chapter 15. Paris at leisure. 11:45 p.m. Monday 17th of August 1970. Hôtel Marquis, Rue Grenata, Paris. I'm so happy. It's so wonderful to have Liana back again. Ellis is treating us both to a late supper at his hotel, unbelievably marvelous food as always. We are going to be spending the night there after all, because the Sûreté have closed down our pension completely while they gather physical evidence. I didn't think that we would have enough money to pay for so much luxury, but we're the guests of the French government until our package tour room is available again, and we are being paid a staggering amount of compensation for the destruction of all our things. Plus there's a big reward for helping to catch the bombers. My head reels when I try to work it out, but it's a lot of money, more than a whole year's salary. Liana says it should be even more than that. She has a very good head on her for money stuff, so she's probably right. Ellis is amused to see that Liana is so hard-headed. He promises to help us to get all of our financial rights. I think maybe he's laughing at us, but no, he means it. He's just smiling because, like me, he's relieved that everything worked out so well. After dinner, Ellis gravely wishes us both a good night's sleep. He says he will be at work long before we're up in the morning, and gives me the telephone number of an office where he can be reached if we need him. I get the feeling that this is his way of saying goodbye. I'm a little sad about that. Although I have only known him 3 days, they have been the most hectic, activity-crammed, terrifying, exhausting days of my life, and he was there for me through it all, feeding me and helping me and keeping me safe. I think of Ellis as a friend. I'd hoped that he thought of me as a friend. Didn't he say now that we're friends? I suppose that was his way of keeping me under surveillance. Next morning we're up with the lark. They serve us a huge café complet in our suite. Yes, suite. Liana and I have a big bedroom each, and we have a sitting room too. I share the joke with Liana about me eating café complet for 2 on Sunday morning. We still have 3 days left to enjoy Paris, and we intend to make the most of it. For the next 3 days me and Liana are going to be racketing about, cramming in all the best sights and buying all the prettiest clothes and eating all the most delicious meals that a ton of money can buy. The first thing we do is go to the early mass at the Basilique du Sacré-Cœur. They have early mass there every day. Liana is stunned by the feeling of peace and love from all the prayers seeping into the walls. We light candles and say silent prayers of thanksgiving for Liana's deliverance, and all the lovely money. Then we find an offerings box and make a donation. After Mass, well, neither of us has a stitch to wear except what we stand up in, and there's all that money to be spent. We head for Galerie Lafayette first. It's not exquisite in the Fabergé egg style of Galerie des Arcades, but it's an architectural miracle, crammed with the most colorful shops you ever saw. Just not rich girl shops like in Galerie des Arcades. And Liana and me, we like nice things, but we're not rich girls and we don't want to spend like rich girls, windfall or not. The shops in Galerie Lafayette are lots more affordable, and even more beautiful in their own Art Deco way. In Glasgow we're very proud of our Rennie Mackintosh Art Deco, but the dome of stylized stained glass in what they call the Coupole at Galerie Lafayette leaves the Mackintosh house standing. The Coupole rises above the top tier of shops in a breathtaking sweep of beautifully molded and enamel-painted metal girding teased into fantastical shapes, yet strong enough to support thousands of stained glass panels made in such beautiful designs that you could spend all day just craning your neck to look up at the glittering glass rainbows in that dome. The Coupole proper is sort of a cross between a dome and an atrium, with the shops all built on the outer perimeter of a circle. So the entire area below the dome is a gigantic completely open cylinder rising almost to heaven, with shops on all sides. Liana really enjoys shopping in Galerie Lafayette. The shops rise on 3 brocaded stone tiers like a giant's opera house, each tier full of ever more exquisite shops. And when we discover that we can have everything we buy delivered to the Hôtel Marquis within hours, in fact all our parcels will be sitting in our suite before we can get back there ourselves. Well, there's no holding Liana then. She goes straight to a luggage shop, except it doesn't just sell luggage, it also sells gorgeous handbags with matching gloves and shoes. Well, when I see all those matched sets of gloves and shoes and bags, I almost die. Liana chooses a gorgeous steamer trunk for herself, dark brown leather with brass fittings. It's really beautiful, but the price beggars belief. However, as Liana loses no time in making me understand, buying quality luggage is an economy because it lasts forever, and we have plenty of money to buy the best because we won't need to buy suitcases. I didn't quite get that at first, but Liana is very good at explaining anything to do with shopping. She explains that all we need is a steamer trunk each and a small traveling case. Steamer trunks are much better than suitcases on the train, because they fit neatly under the berths. Luxury trains like the Istanbul Express, which we're traveling on, have stowage spaces inside the compartments where the trunk slides in. You can't do that with suitcases, Liana explains to me. Obviously she paid a lot more attention than I did to what the lassie at Thomas Cook was showing us about the accommodation on the train. So I buy an exquisitely glamorous black glossy trunk with a matching small case for myself. It isn't leather like Liana's, it's made of glossy fiberglass, so beautiful. And perfectly plain black leather court shoes, with a matching bag and gloves, and an umbrella which is made of a glossy black shiny material and shaped like a parasol. I never saw anything so beautiful for keeping off the rain in my life. As Liana points out, I'll get my money's worth out of that lot when we get back to Glasgow, because it's always raining there. I don't quite understand why it costs so much to get things which don't have trims and fancy stuff, but Liana explains it to me. If it's plain, then the leather has to be perfect quality, with no spots or flaws, because there's nothing in the design to cover up any imperfections. I don't really mind the cost, because as Liana says, over the years I'll get my money's worth, or should I say the French justice system's money's worth, of use out of these lovely things. Then Liana decided that we also needed a hat box each, and they have matching hat boxes too. It's sheer heaven. And of course then we go shopping for hats. We have to have at least one hat to wear for church on Sundays, naturally, but I am not going to attempt to describe the Parisian hats, the most beautiful things you ever saw. I bought 4. By the time we're ready to begin buying ordinary clothes, I'm starving and my feet hurt. And we want to make the most of our time and see all the sights we can, so we get a taxi to the Musée de l'Orangerie. In 2 minutes we're sitting in the wee restaurant there, looking out at the Place de la Concorde with a super view of the lovely fountains while we eat tasting plates. I don't know how anyone is supposed to choose and eat a main dish after eating those lovely bites. Snacking on the tiny morsels becomes the biggest lunch I've ever eaten. After lunch we spend an hour looking at the famous art in the museum. Later on, it's hard to choose whether to do more shopping or go sightseeing. We do need an awful lot of clothes, and night things and toiletries and all sorts, but there are so many wonderful sights to see as well. Liana finds the perfect compromise. We go to the Musée du Parfum Fragonard, which is a behind-the-scenes tour of Fragonard perfumes. Le Musée du Parfum is a lovely old building that has an incredible collection of perfume bottles and perfume-making devices, some very ancient. We spend a delightful hour pottering about, and then Liana takes charge of getting all the stuff for making us pretty and sweet-smelling. She asks me to choose which scent I like best, and then she buys the most stylish range of toiletries like you cannot imagine. Every last one of them in an exquisite glass bottle, each bottle different. I'm staggered at the price, but this time Liana doesn't even bother to explain to me why it's more economical to buy all this mind-blowingly expensive stuff. She just says we deserve a treat, after all we've been through. After that we go back to Galerie Lafayette and shop until we drop. At dinner time we're going for a cruise on the Seine. We have a lovely table by the window, and see all the sights as the boat floats down the river, like the Louvre, Ile de la Cité and the Gare d'Orsay. By the time they've welcomed and seated us, the buildings are all lit up and they look wonderful against the night sky. They give us a glass of champagne when we board. Liana has mine as well as her own, and she doesn't complain when I say that's enough wine for one evening. She's too busy enjoying the live music. Although she does have a couple of glasses of wine later, with the meal, and I join her in a glass then. Who can say no to French wine? When the boat docks we're more than happy to walk back to the Hotel Marquis and sink into our lovely comfy beds. Next day we devote to serious shopping. We can't turn up in Istanbul with no clothes, although we do make time to visit Le Trianon, That's where Marie Antoinette used to play at being a farm girl. If she'd ever seen what a real farm's like, well, she wouldn't have liked it, that's all I'm saying. But it was a lovely tour. The buildings are very elegant, and they took us around in a special touring car, which was a nice rest for feet aching from going around the shops. After the Trianon, Liana and me both feel that's enough sightseeing for one day, and we go back to the hotel for a nice quiet dinner and a good rest. I sort of hope Ellis will be there, but we don't see him. Our last day. Over breakfast we decide that we'll visit Sainte-Chapelle and the Louvre. How could we hold our heads up back home, when we tell them we've been to Paris, and they speer about the Mona Lisa, and we have to tell them we didn't see it? For sure we have to visit the Louvre. But I don't much fancy a lot of walking, so we'll just spend a couple of hours there. And then do a little last-minute shopping. We're going to spend the evening at a dinner cabaret. Ultimate luxury and decadence, here we come. When we finish our breakfast and go downstairs, we discover that the Sûreté have finished collecting evidence, and so we should be moving back into our pension now. But we have a mountain of shopping sitting in our rooms, and we don't fancy having to haul it along to Hôtel Albert. Besides, this is our last day in Paris. We don't want to waste hours of it messing about changing hotels. So we make up our minds to be madly extravagant, and we spend our own money on paying to stay in our lovely suite for one last night. I do not even want to think about what it costs. But as Liana says, it's coming out of our reward money for helping to catch the bombers, so the French government is really paying for us anyway. It's just the same as if we were still their guests. We spent most of our damage compensation money on buying all our wonderful new things, but we haven't touched our reward money yet. So Liana is right as usual. What a head that Lassie has on her for dealing with money. We're boarding the train for Istanbul today. Our journey across Europe starts at 10:35 a.m. We're standing on the platform, and I'm zealously watching the porters, every movement as they stow our new luggage in our compartment. I don't want to take any risk that our lovely travel things might get damaged by careless handling. I'm checking our tickets again to make sure that we have the right compartment when Ellis comes up to us. "Good morning, Major," says Liana, likely because she doesn't feel that she knows him well enough to call him anything else. She's only spent one evening in his company. And he's so much older than us. Liana was brought up right, like me. She's respectful to her elders. With a tiny half bow, Ellis hands her a small bundle of books, to keep you busy on the journey. He grins. Liana blushes. I blush. Then he turns to me and hands me a cake box, to make up for the cream cakes you didn't get on the train from Le Havre. My face gets redder. It's very kind of you to come to see us off. But he interrupts. Oh, I'm not seeing you off. I'm traveling to Rome. Time to get aboard, ladies. He tips his hat to us and saunters off to the first-class section of the train. For the first time, I regret not having spent the extra money for first class. Liana and I are standing right beside our own second-class compartment, and we climb aboard. I wonder what adventures await us in Istanbul? It's bound to feel tame after all the ups and downs we've had in Paris. The guard blows his whistle and we're off. As Liana slides open the door of our lovely compartment, made up as a tiny sitting room, a train attendant rushes up. "A million pardons, ladies. This is not your compartment." I have the ticket still in my hand, and it's our compartment all right. I turn to the man and show him our tickets. It is so. He beams. "Yes, ladies. From Rome to Istanbul, this is your compartment. From here to Rome, you have been transferred to a suite in first class. Please, follow me." No way am I leaving my exquisite new black luggage to the tender mercies of careless train porters. It will be moved under my eye. Very well. I sniff. "Please ask the porters to come for our luggage now." The attendant is crestfallen. Obviously he thought that we would be overjoyed to get moved into one of the super ritzy first-class compartments just as fast as possible. He peeps into our compartment. Our tiny traveling cases sit on a teeny-weeny shelf of just the right size to hold them. Liana is a superb shopper, she knew exactly what we'd need. The attendant beams again. "Of course. I will carry your cases. He darts in too fast for me to say a word, picks up our cases, and is back out in the passageway with us almost before I've opened my mouth. Thank you. I smile. But we'll still need a porter. There are 2 steamer trunks as well. The attendant knows all about the compartments where steamer trunks are stowed, of course. It's quickly settled that Liana will go with him and our traveling cases to our new first-class suite, and I'll wait here for the porters. You couldn't move me with a crowbar before those lovely trunks are safely transported. Soon 2 porters turn up. Only one can work inside the compartment at a time. The first goes into the compartment, opens the stowage, carefully removes Liana's trunk, and starts off down the passageway with it. The other goes to the stowage compartment on the opposite side of the carriage, opens it up, and begins to pull out my gorgeous glossy black trunk. 3 seconds later he stops dead, and backs out of the carriage, his body obscuring my view. Obviously my worst fears have been realized. Some careless porter has scratched my trunk. I crane my neck, determined to see the extent of the damage. And when I do, I wish I hadn't. The top of my trunk is not properly closed, and a lifeless arm lolls out of it.
You have been listening to the audiobook of Death in Paris by Kate Darroch. Narrated with auto-audio technology by Sounded.com. Text copyright 2023. Recording copyright 2023 by Sounded.com. All rights reserved. For more information about our unabridged audiobooks and narration services, or to visit our bookstore or library, please visit www.sounded.com. This is the end of this production.